What's going on, guys? It's your boy Nick coming at you with a brand new 60 card FA Metalfoes combo deck, aka also known as the Pile deck. Pile decks have actually gotten somewhat popular as of the past few weeks, I would say. It's basically just combo decks that are running as much cards as they possibly can to help them facilitate their combo lines. They just play a bunch of different engines, and that helps them just play through multiple disruptions in case their main combo lines get snuffed. So I basically took inspiration from those types of decks and brought it over to my FA deck. Now, for those of you that are unaware, FA happens to be one of my all-time favorite decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a deck that I've played since it's been out, and it's a deck that I've also brought to basically every single format. And I've played and tested it, I would say probably more than anyone else has played or tested FA in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community in general. I can almost guarantee that I've made more FA-related videos on my channel than anyone else has in their entire life. With that being said, though, for those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. Here we do deck profiles, live duel videos, and deck discussions. If that's something that you're interested in, then by all means, please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button down below and like the video. We are almost at 300 subs, guys. I can't believe it. I know that my channel is still small and still growing, but it's insane to me how fast it has been growing, and I can't express my gratitude to all of you who've taken the time to sit down and watch my videos. I just feel so blessed and grateful for the chance to bring you guys this kind of content, and it's something that genuinely makes me really, really happy. With that being said, though, let's go ahead and jump right into this FA Pile combo deck profile. It's something that I've been working on for quite a bit, and it's got some pretty cool spice in it. Before diving into it, though, I will say, for those of you who are budget players, this probably isn't the deck for you. I do have other budget builds of FA on my channel. If you're interested in watching those builds, then feel free to view them on the channel. I can leave the links down below in the description. But I will say that this deck is playing some pretty expensive cards, so if you're a budget player, I do apologize, but it is what it is. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. We are going to be starting things off, as usual, by running through our monster lineup first. And we are playing triple copies of FA Auto Navigator. Auto Navigator is basically your starter and your extender. She's a machine wind tuner. She is a terraforming on legs, meaning when she's normal or special summon, she lets you add an FA field spell from deck to hand. And she is also an extender, mid combo as well, being able to, if you control an FA monster whose level is higher than its original, target that monster, special summon the auto nav from your hand or graveyard. And if you do, her level becomes the amount that was reduced. She's everything you need. Like I said, a starter, extender, insane card, and probably one of the best machine tuners in the game that's not been banned. So moving on, we are playing triple copies of FA Hang-On Mach. FA Hang-On Mach, in my opinion, is probably the second best main deck FA monster behind Auto Navigator. He is just a house. He gains a level every time an FA spell or spell effect or trap effect is activated, and there's no limit to that. It's not once per turn on that effect. He gains 300 attack times his level, and then he's also unaffected by activated effects of monsters whose level or rank is lower than his. And to make matters worse for your opponent, if he's level 7 or higher, any card sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. This card is actually pretty nuts this format, and usually is almost every format, because most people don't want their cards getting banished, and floodgating them under a one-sided macro is pretty insane. Especially when you consider the fact that they can't forbidden droplet. They cannot forbidden droplet you while Hang-On Mach's on the field and he's level 7 or higher, because they actually can't pay the cost of sending cards from their hand or field to grave for the droplet, which is something that I actually didn't know when I was playing this a few formats ago, and I actually got cheated out of a game because somebody actually dropleted me and I let it slide, when in reality that was an illegal activation. So just keep that in mind, but Hang-On Mach is a pretty strong card overall, and you're probably going to laugh, but that's actually it for the FA monsters in the main deck. Now that seems like a small FA monster count, and by all means it is, but we are playing the best FA monsters that the archetype has to offer. All the other ones are kind of just filler or situational at best. And yeah, that's kind of just how it is. So moving on, we're going to get into our Metalfoes package, because this is a Metalfoes variant of FA. We're playing 2 copies of Bismugear, 2 copies of Steelen, 2 copies of Silverd, and 1 Goldriver. And then we're also playing 1 Melcaster and 1 Vanisher. Now, I just bombarded a bunch of cards on the screen, but let me explain how the Metalfoes actually work in tandem with FA. The reason why, if you're playing FA, sometimes you'll probably hear people state that some of the more consistent versions are the Metalfoes variant. And the reason for that is because Metalfoes all have the same pendulum scale effect, where once per turn they can target any other face-up card in the field and destroy it. FA plays a lot of different field spells in their theme, and all of their field spells have effects when they're destroyed by a card effect. So you can easily jumpstart your plays and get your engine going by using the Metalfoes as like ways to pop your field spells and generate tons of advantage, because the Metalfoes will let you set a Metalfoes spell trap from deck to your field, and then the field spell will let you search an FA card upon destruction. And it's funny because FA inherently, despite it being a theme based around race cars, it's kind of slow, like in the pure variant. So the Metalfoes really do a great job at speeding the engine up and helping you gain access to cards that you would otherwise have issues gaining access to. Given that, like I said, when the field spells are popped, it lets you add any FA card from deck to hand, except a copy of itself. What's funny, though, is that in Archetype, FA doesn't have many good ways to do that. Which I find kind of ironic. So that's why we run the Metalfoes package. Plus, not to mention, the Metalfoes cards themselves actually aren't that bad. They all function as low and high scales, so you can easily set up pen scales in this deck and be able to pendulum summon, helping you further extend through disruptions and just being able to summon more monsters on field to combo off with. Additionally, all the Metalfoes do share that exact same pendulum effect. The only one that doesn't is Vanisher here. His pendulum scale effect mainly more applies to a pure Metalfoes deck. What we use Vanisher for in this deck is his monster effect, where if he's special summoned by the effect of a Metalfoes card, including his own effect, you can target a monster your opponent controls or that they have in their grave and banish it. Also, what's cool is that while he's in your hand, you can target 2 face-up cards you control, including a Metalfoes card, destroy them both to special this from hand, which would also trigger his own secondary effect to banish a monster, which I think is cool. So you can like pop a scale, pop a field spell, and summon this guy, and then like, combo off from there as well, which I think is pretty neat. Also, you'll notice that most of the Metalfoes cards are normal monsters, with the exception of Vanisher, obviously, Melcaster, and Bismugear. Melcaster and Bismugear do have monster effects, and they're pretty cool. Bismugear, if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, during the end phase of the turn, she lets you add a Metalfoes monster from deck to hand. And then Melcaster is kind of like the reverse version of Bismugear, where if she's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add a Metalfoes monster that's face up in your extra deck back to your hand. But the only restriction is that you cannot activate a monster with that same name in your pen scale for the rest of the turn. But that's pretty much it for the Metalfoes monster lineup that we're playing, guys. I've found that this ratio is absolutely perfect, and I've been testing FA Metalfoes since as far back as I can remember. It's like I said, it's one of my favorite decks of all time, and the Metalfoes engine really does jive quite well with FA as a whole. But moving on, now we're going to play... move into some of our other non-archetypal monsters. We're playing 1 copy of Deskbot 1 and 1 copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Coltwing, of course, to facilitate our Hulk combo, because yes, I'm sure as you've all guessed, this being a 60-card deck does utilize the Hulk of Fibrax combo, and I'm sure some of you people might roll your eyes, but let's face it, at the end of the day, Hulk combo is pretty damn strong as far as what it can enable, and you'd be foolish to not run Hulk combo. Like, if you're trying to play the deck competitively, you have to run the Hulk combo, regardless of how you feel about the engine as a whole. But moving on, we're playing some interesting tech choices. We're running 2 copies of Magician Souls in this deck. Now, for those of you that may remember some of my older builds of FA, we ran Souls before. Ultimately, I ended up cutting it after doing a bunch of testing, and there's some profiles that I've made with FA that didn't feature this card. I stated in those videos that, there were other better choices than running Souls himself, especially given how expensive he was at the time. And also, not to mention, sometimes I felt that the engine was not as great as people were hyping it up to be. Reason being is because at the time, there wasn't any great spellcaster targets you could play to facilitate the Souls' special summoning effect. Outside of stuff like Chronograph Sorcerer, which, I've tested, or like Apprentice Illusion Magician, for example. But since then, that issue has actually been fixed because we have a brand new card out of Battle of Chaos called Magician of Chaos. And this card single-handedly fixes all of my issues that I had with Magician Souls, being that Illusion of Chaos allows you to search Magician Souls by revealing himself, You can add Magician Souls from deck to hand. Then you can take a card from your hand, which could be Illusion of Chaos or any other card in hand, and place it on top of the deck. The reason why that's relevant is because Illusion of Chaos, despite already searching souls, which makes it awesome, can place itself back in the deck, making it so that the souls you just searched is live, and if you didn't have a spellcaster target in deck to pitch from deck to grave to special the souls from hand, you do now. Also, not to mention, Illusion of Chaos doesn't have to put itself specifically back in the deck. You can put any card in your hand back in the deck. So if you drew like one of your Garnets, for example, like, Coltwing or anything similar to that, you could easily put that back in deck off of Illusion of Chaos's effect, and then still special the souls by utilizing the other copy we have in our main deck. And yeah, I just think Illusion of Chaos fixed literally every problem that I had with Souls previously, and playing Souls in this particular variant is fun because we are running the Metalfoes engine, and Souls plus the Metalfoes cards can lead into some really sick and disgusting combos through cards like Metalfoes Combination and Metalfoes Fusion, being able to send those cards off of Souls effect to draw, and then both of those cards can like cycle themselves back to draw more cards or get you a search when they're dumped. So it's like just really insane the amount of advantage that a card like Magician Souls gives this deck. Now, I know that at the time of recording, Souls himself isn't that cheap, but I know for sure he's not as expensive as he used to be prior to his reprint. But I know for some of you budget players, if you're not looking to play this, at the moment I really don't have any other alternative to suggest. I really haven't tested with anything else. I could say that you might maybe consider running something like the Messiah, Anti-Human Intelligence Messiah, excuse me. It's a Cyberse Pendulum Monster. That's a card I was running for a while in FA, but like I said, now there's almost no need to run that, given that Illusion of Chaos exists, and Illusion of Chaos fixes all of the issues that I had with Souls previously. And also, Souls is just a really great extender. So again, 2 Souls, 2 Illusion of Chaos. You could make the argument to run 3 Souls, 3 Illusion, or like 3 Souls, 2 Illusion, but realistically in testing, I found that changing out the ratios from what they currently are don't add that much value. You have a lot of different ways to search souls in this deck, so I wasn't ever too worried about it necessarily. Also, not to mention, you don't want to brick yourself on illusions, because technically it's great to draw, but you don't ever want to see it in multiples. So I think just playing 2 illusion is the right ratio, of course. But moving on to our next engine that we play, we are running a Psi-reflector package. So we play the 1 copy of Psi-reflector, and then the 1 copy of Assault Beast in the main deck. As everybody knows, Emergency Teleport just went to 3 as of the last ban list in the beginning of February, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Psi-reflector is probably single-handedly the best psychic monster that you can summon off of E-Tele. Also, cycling back briefly, for those of you that didn't know, all the Metalfoes cards are psychics as well. So a lot of the low-level Metalfoes that we play in the main deck are E-Tele targets, which again just further adds to the deck's consistency, which is pretty wild. But anyway, 1 copy of Psi-reflector, 1 Assault Beast. You could make the argument that you could run the Punk engine in place of the Psi-reflector engine. And while there's nothing wrong with doing that, my issue, at least in this particular deck, that I found running the Punk engine over the Psi-reflector package is that with the Punk engine, all it facilitates is a Hulk combo and not really much else. Maybe a level 7 synchro, depending on what else you had in your field, but the levels of the cards don't really match up or do anything, and you usually just end up with 2 tuners after doing the Punk combo, which, again, you can't really synchro with the 2 tuners individually, and we don't play any Xyzes in this deck to allow us to Xyz summon into anything. So all you can really realistically end up on is just Hulk combo, and sometimes you don't always want to go for that necessarily. So I like the flexibility that Psi-reflector gives, given that when you search out Assault Beast, you dump Assault Beast to add Assault Mode Activate, and then you can use Psi-reflector's secondary effect to special Assault Beast, and then modulate his level anywhere from level 5 to a level 8, if I'm not mistaken. So then at that point you can make anything from a level 6 to a level 9 synchro. And I like the flexibility in that. So that's why we run the Psi-reflector. Also, we just run the Psi-reflector at 1 copy. Just because with triple E-Tele, there's no real need to play more than just 1. But I found that the Psi-reflector package is extremely powerful in this deck. And off of Psi-reflector, you could easily go into the Hulk combo yourself, or any number of different synchros that you are interested in making. So we're running that. We're also playing the 1 Destrudo, since it's fresh off the list. It is limited, unfortunately, to 1 copy, but Destrudo, again, is just another amazing extender that you can play in a synchro-based deck. It'd be foolish not to run this card. Very, very strong in this particular build. But moving on to our next engine we play, we are running the DPE package in this deck because, again, it's a 60-card pile deck. Why not? So we're playing the 1 Celestial, the 1 Dasher, and again, in case our combo lines get snuffed, we can always wind up in making a Verite Anaconda, dumping Fusion Destiny, and just making DPE, and at least that's better than just, passing turn without actually being able to finish our combos. So 1 Celestial, 1 Dasher. Now let's moving on into the hand traps. We're on triple Ghost, Ogre, and Snow Rabbit. This card has actually done insane amounts of work this format. I can't express how amazing this card is, especially being a tuner psychic that you can summon off of E-Telly as well. Overall, just an insanely strong card, combating all types of different strategies. Then we're also main decking triple copies of Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion. I kind of feel like this card's a little slept on. We play Ghost Belle mainly to stop stuff like Artifact Scythe and like DPE and stuff like that. Just any graveyard reliant engine or card. Belle is just really strong against in general. And that's it for the monster lineup, guys. Now we're going to move into the spell cards. We're going to dive into the FA field spells real quick first. We're on 1 copy of Circuit Grand Prix, 2 copies of Hyper Stadium, 2 Off-Road Grand Prix, and then triple copies of City Grand Prix. I've played this ratio of field spells in this deck for almost as far as I can remember. I don't think I'll ever change it. This, in my opinion, is the most consistent field spell ratio possible. In the non-60 card variants, I would say you could cut Circuit, but since you're playing a 60 card, you kind of want the extra name. Hyper Stadium on activation allows you to add an FA monster from deck to hand, so it's a Rhoda on activation, which is pretty cool. And by revealing another field spell in hand and paying 1,000 life points, it gives you a double summon of an FA monster for your normal summon this turn, which is pretty damn cool. Circuit Grand Prix, Offer Grand Prix, and City Grand Prix, they offer your FA monsters 2 additional levels during particular phases in the turn. Also, City Grand Prix prevents your FA monsters from being targeted by card effects, which is pretty cool. And then Circuit and Off-Road have other additional effects, but they seldom come up. The main draw of these cards is the fact that when they're destroyed by any card effect, you get to add an FA card from deck to hand, except a copy of the card that was popped. And that's why we're playing the Metalfoes package in this deck. So that's it for the field spell ratio, guys. Now we're going to move into some of the FA quick play spells. We're playing triple copies of FA Test Run. This is probably the best non-FA field spell. Best FA spell that's not a field spell, in the entire archetype. It's a quick play. It allows you to target an FA monster you control as cost, and then you change its battle position at resolution, and then destroy a card on the field non-target on a quick play spell. So it's basically like a non-target Zodiac Trident, which is pretty crazy. And then the even more insane effect is the fact that from the graveyard, you can banish this card from grave, target a card on the field, destroy it, and if you do, you can special summon an FA monster from your deck. So out of the graveyard, it's like a Zodiac Barrage. This card is absolutely nuts. It sucks that, it's got a once per turn clause, but it's still just an insanely powerful card overall, and you'd be foolish to not run it in any FA build. Then we're just on 1 copy of FA Pit Stop. FA Pit Stop allows you to target an FA, reduce its level by 2, and then draw a card. So it's kind of like an archetype Upstart Goblin. And then from the graveyard, you can banish it, and then it's a monster reborn for any FA monster in your grave, which is pretty cool. But just the 1 copy is all you really need. But moving on to some of our generic spells, we are on triple copy of Forbidden Chalice. Didn't have the money to shell out for droplets, at least not yet. So in the meantime, Chalice is the next best thing. Again, this is just an additional way to help us play around cards like Artifact Scythe. On our turn, if we draw for turn and they go, DPE pop Scythe, if we have a Chalice, we can at least attempt to Chalice it to prevent the Scythe from resolving and keeping our extra deck all good and dandy. But Chalice in general is just an overall great card. Just being able to out different annoying threats or bait negations or whatnot, or just turn certain cards off that you don't want to deal with for the turn, so you can play around them. Then moving on, we're on triple copies of E-Telly. Still can't believe that this card finally got to 3 on the ban list. E-Telly is single-handedly the most push card I think I've read in a long time. It just supports so many Psychic-themed decks in general, and it's no different with the Metalfoes FA variant. Obviously, all the Metalfoes cards are Psychic, so you're able to just extend for days. Then we're on 1 copy of War Arf Thou, because we do play a lot of level 1s in this deck. like Auto Navigator, Magician Souls, and Raremetalfoes Bismugear. Those are all level 1s, especially cards like Psi-reflector is another level 1, and Deskbot 001 is another level 1 that we play. So War of Thou is nice. If you have any of those level 1s on your field, activate War of Thou. Search, your Souls. Search your Bismugear if you need a scale. A very strong card overall. One Foolish Burial, just to be able to dump something like, a Destrudo, or even dump something like an Auto Nav. In case you don't have access to it, you can use Auto Nav's Graveyard effect to special herself by targeting an FA whose level is higher than the original. One Fusion Destiny. You could play 2 Fusion Destiny, but I'm just on the 1 copy because that's pretty much all you need. You just want to resolve the Verte and dump your 1 copy and call it a day. The reason why I don't play 2 is because we're playing a 60 card deck, so I feel like playing 2 isn't going to help you see it, any better, given how large the deck is. And then once you resolve the Fusion Destiny the first time, the second copy of it effectively just becomes a brick. So that's why we're just playing the 1 of. Then we're on the 1 called by, obviously, just to stop hand traps. And then now we're moving into our Metalfoes spells. We're on 1 Parametalfoes Fusion and then 1 Metalfoes Fusion. These are the spell cards we can set off of our Metalfoes scales when they pop something. Obviously, Metalfoes Fusion, we all know, lets you fusion summon using materials from hand or field. Parametalfoes Fusion does the same thing, albeit you can use up to 1 material each from your hand, field, and or face up in your extra deck. So this is a fusion spell that lets you fuse using materials that are face up in the extra deck, but you can only use up to 1 copy each from those places. But overall, it's still a great card, really fun to have. Now we're going to move into our traps that we're playing. We're on 2 copies of Metalfoes Counter. This is another Metalfoes card we can set off of our scale effects. And basically it just reads if a card or cards you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect. You can special summon a Metalfoes from deck, and then from your graveyard, you can banish this card to then add a face-up Metalfoes Pendulum monster from the extra deck to your hand. Then we're on the 1 copy of Metalfoes Combination. This card, you actually seldom use the on-field effect. All you really use this card for is for the Magician Souls line, where if you use a Metalfoes scale effect to pop one of the field spells, you can set Combination, and then use Magician Souls to send the Combination to draw a card, and then since Combination was sent from field to grave, you get to search a Metalfoes card from deck to hand. So that's a really neat combo. And then the last card in the main deck we run is the 1 copy of Assault Mode Activate. And that wraps up the main deck, guys, of our 60-card FA Metalfoes pile deck. Let's jump in real quickly to the extra deck. It kind of sucks because the extra deck is super, super tight, so I had to make, some tough decisions on what to run, but I think what I have here is pretty strong for what it is. We're on the 1 copy of Quandax, just to function as our, synchro tuner. 1 Gardenrose Flora. In my opinion, it's just an honorary FA card. She lets you she can pop a field spell and then special summon a token. And she's also a tuner and can also, by quick effect, synchro during the opponent's turn, which is pretty nuts. Obviously, 1 Dawn Dragster. In archetype FA card is insane. It's just a spell trap negate. It does piercing damage. It gains levels every time an FA spell or trap is activated. Pretty nice. 1 Cyber's Quantum Dragon. Probably one of the best level 7 synchros I've ever read. People, I think, hell asleep on this card. This card can out so many annoying threats like Dragoon and different things like that. This card is really, really nice to have. 1 copy of Omega, of course, just as a generic level 8 we can make pretty easily. 1 Borreload Savage, again, is another level 8 we can make through our Hulk combo. 1 copy of FA Motorhome Transport. If I really had to come down to it, I would say that this probably is the most flexible card in the extra deck. But I just like playing this card. To me, it's just funny having a big-ass truck on field that's got 15 levels and has 4,500 attack or whatever. It's just kind of funny to me. But 1 copy of that. And then we are playing the 1 copy of Baron de Fleur as our level 10 synchro of choice. Baron obviously needs no introduction. The card's just cracked. Then we're on for our fusions. We're playing the 1 Metalfoes Mithrilium. Still pretty insane. We're also testing out 1 copy of Metalfoes Orichalc this format. I used to previously run 2 copies of Mithrilium, but I'm switching things up a bit and testing out Orichalc for a bit. Orichalc is pretty nice and can help close out games under certain scenarios. Also, it's a way that we can out stuff like Skill Drain with his Graveyard effect. Being able to pop any card on field, I think, is pretty nice. Then, of course, we're on the 1 copy of Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer in the extra deck. And that's it for the fusions now. We're moving into our links. So 1 copy of Link Rebo. Just great card if you're playing level 1s in your deck. Just run Link Rebo. It's nice. 1 copy of Verte to facilitate our DPE line. Then we're on the 1 copy of Hulk and then the 1 copy of Auroradon to wrap up our extra deck. We'll jump into the side deck real quick. I'm just playing 2 copies of Trap Eater, again for our trap-heavy, floodgatey matchups. 2 copies of Token Collector to help stop stuff like Brave Token and Sword Soul. Then we are on the 1 Metalfoes Crimsonite in the side. Reason being is that this card is a really strong Super Poly target, which we also side. Crimsonite only needs a Metalfoes monster plus any 2 monsters with 3,000 or less attack. That just screams Super Poly your opponent's board and make this any day of the week. Also, you can Super Poly through Verte as well, which is nice. We're on triple Dark Ruler No More just to help facilitate going second against crazy combo boards. 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon. You'd probably argue that you could maybe run like Cosmic Cyclone or Twin Twisters instead. The reason why we don't run Cyclone is because in some instances, if we're in a pinch, we can MST our own field spell to get a search, and that might help us like pop off on our plays. The reason why we don't run Twin Twisters either is because there's not much in this deck that you want to discard from hand, so I just don't value the Twin Twisters as much, but MST, does the job just fine. And then for the last card that we play on the side is triple copies of Gravity Claps. If the opponent makes us go first and they'll decide to droplet us or Dark Ruler us, we can Gravity Clap, sack one of our synchros, and now they cannot summon any cards for the rest of the turn. So that's it, guys, for the side. Hopefully you enjoyed the 60-card FA pile list. Feel free to leave a like on the video, comment down below what you thought, and stay tuned for more fresh Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. Again, I just want to thank you guys so much for all your support, and yeah, stay tuned for more sick content.